Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I think our most popular videos are where I just go through and answer as many trade questions as possible. So I'm not going to waste your time. We are going to get right into this after you hit that like button, after you subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty, and after you make sure you are drafting with us on Underdog. You can find the link in the comment section, find it in the description. Of course, we did over 700 drafts on Underdog this past offseason because in my mind, it's the best place to draft. They just launched a $1 million draft contest, and when you sign up with promo code FLOCK and make a minimum of a $10 deposit, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, and you are going to get our 2023 Dynasty rankings, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. But that should be about it. Let's go through. Let's dive into these trades. Starting off with our first one, a little bit of a bigger trade on the surface where you're going to be looking at Deshaun Watson, Calvin Ridley, and the 102. I don't really care about the 206 in this deal. It's such a small piece for the 101, 103. Same thing, I'd say those third round rookie picks, they don't matter at all. If we're going to be breaking this down, let's just say hypothetical scenario, the 102, the 103, and then those third round picks are about the same. You'd rather have the 102, but we are just playing the what if game. And then at that point, it comes down to, would you rather have Calvin Ridley, Deshaun Watson, and the 206, or Bijan Robinson? And right now, if we're looking at 12-team Dynasty Superflex startups, you're seeing that the gap between Calvin Ridley and Bijan Robinson really isn't too much. It's a gap of about, what, I would say 4 to 5 picks, depending on the startup that you're in. Usually you have Bijan going in the late first. You have Deshaun Watson going in the beginning of the second. I recently just took Bijan Robinson in the 110 and got Deshaun Watson on the way back around at the beginning of the second round. So honestly, in my mind, we're probably going to go with the Deshaun Watson, Calvin Ridley, and 102 side of this trade, just because I know what we could get for Calvin Ridley in the open market right now, where on Underdog, he's going in like the third round of redraft leagues. Like, people are pumped on him. And like we said, you're getting a little bit of additional value with that 102 compared to the 103. So I don't know. I think we're going to go with the Watson side and maybe try to flip Ridley if you're not a big Ridley fan. But our next deal is going to be a bunch of trash and Jalen Hurts. I know a lot of people are very excited about Jordan Love. Love really doesn't have any rushing upside. He shouldn't be stepping into a great situation. He's not even a guaranteed starter next year. I'm like not that excited about Jordan Love at this point. Versus Kyler Murray, 2 first-round picks, and a second. Let's just say Ryan Tannehill in the second equal Jordan Love. Maybe you prefer Tannehill, maybe you prefer Love. They're close enough to remove them from this deal. So if we're going to be removing Tannehill in the second, if we're going to be removing Jordan Love in the thirds, it's essentially, do you want Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray and 2 additional future first-round picks? I'm honestly probably going to go with the Kyler side here. Obviously, Jalen Hurts looks phenomenal. Jalen Hurts was a true league-winning player in both redraft and Dynasty this past offseason. I would easily rather have, Jalen Hurts over a healthy Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray is dealing with a significant injury. But if you're getting 2 additional first-round picks on top of it, that is a pretty significant discount. And at that price, I'm going to be fine going with the discount on Kyler. Now, going over to our next deal, this is going to be another Deshaun Watson trade. Literally every single time we make these videos, it's always Deshaun Watson. This one's going to be Deshaun Watson, Jameson Williams, and a future first versus Justin Herbert in the 205. I think we can all agree you'd rather have Jameson Williams over the 205. And if we're going to be looking at Deshaun Watson and a future first versus Justin Herbert, it's close. I probably prefer Justin Herbert, if I'm going to be honest with you. But at the same time, I think maybe just knowing what we could get for Jameson Williams, very similar to the deal that we were looking at with Calvin Ridley, I probably go with that side, just thinking that we could flip Jameson Williams for a little more. Because if we're going to be, say, removing Jameson Williams and instead replacing him with a 2024 first-round pick, would I rather have Deshaun Watson and 2 future first or Justin Herbert? It's very similar to the Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts trade, actually. I probably would rather have Deshaun Watson and the 2 future first. But let's go over to another deal. This is going to be another Bijan Robinson trade where someone trades Bijan Robinson for the 102, a future first, and a future second. I know we continue to say, oh, take the future first, take the 2024 first. And I know a lot of people are very hyped about that 2024 draft class. I'm telling you to pretty much take the future first here, not necessarily because I think that next draft class is the best thing ever. We hear it every offseason. Everybody always says, oh, the draft class this year, not good. The draft class next year is going to be great. Everybody always says it, and then they always have to hit the repeat button the following offseason. I always like trading for future picks because, hell, I know if we're trading for them at this time, once the summer comes around and everybody gets antsy and everybody wants to make a trade, those 2024 first-round picks will be the soonest rookie picks that are available for trade, and their value will inherently increase, and it's almost a guarantee. The 102, I'm assuming it's going to be Bryce Young at this point. I think it's kind of up in the air. I don't think it's a guarantee, but I would rather have the 102 and a future first, even over our guy Bijan, even if he's my running back one in Dynasty, even if I love the man, give me the extra first-round pick so we can have the flexibility this summer. But now going over to our next deal, we're going to be looking at another Bijan Robinson trade, where this time it's going to be Bijan, Drake London, A.J. Dillon, and a future second for Kenneth Walker, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a future first and third. Now, I would rather have Bijan Robinson over Kenneth Walker in Dynasty. I personally have them in the same tier. I believe we have Kenneth Walker as our running back 4, Bijan Robinson as our running back 1. But if we're going to be looking at the gap between these two players, I mean, it's not massive for me. I really like Kenneth Walker based off what we had his rookie season. So if we're going to be saying, okay, well, maybe you have Kenneth Walker and the first-round pick equaling Bijan Robinson and AJ Dillon, or Bijan Robinson and a second, I think that's a very fair way to break it down. Let's say Walker in the first equals Bijan in the second. We remove those two pieces from the deal. Would you rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown in the future third or AJ Dillon and Drake London? At this point, I think once Aaron Jones restructures his contract, and once we now know he's pretty much guaranteed to be a Green Bay Packer this next year, and AJ Dillon doesn't really have a shot to be the starter here outside of an injury, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take the Amon-Ra St. Brown side. I don't necessarily think we need to be evaluating A.J. Dillon in that range anymore. And honestly, while Drake London, yes, was a phenomenal prospect, while Drake London actually had more receiving yards per game at USC while Amon-Ra St. Brown was on the roster when he was a year younger. Like, I love Drake London. He's still not in the same caliber of a player in Dynasty for me as Amon-Ra St. Brown at this point, after St. Brown has been dominant at the end of year 1 and also all of year 2. But now our next guy, going to be DeAndre Swift versus Josh Jacobs. You got to go Jacobs here, right? I mean, Jacobs, what? Number 1 PFF graded running back. He is a free agent. We really don't know what to expect, but I'm very, very confident in saying Josh Jacobs will be a starting running back for an NFL team this next season. With DeAndre Swift, I do not think it is likely, but I think it is a possibility that the Detroit Lions decide not only to bring back Jamal Williams, but at the same time to address the running back position in this year's NFL draft. We saw a comment on, I think, a YouTube short, but they said, oh, is DeAndre Swift Kerryon Johnson? I don't want to say that's the case. Of course, Kerryon Johnson was the player people loved in Dynasty. He was not nearly as good of a prospect as DeAndre Swift, but he ended up getting replaced because he dealt with injuries early on in his career in Detroit, and the Detroit Lions. I don't know. If they bring in Zach Charbonnet in the 3rd round and re-sign Jamal Williams, I can't sit here and say DeAndre Swift is exactly who we thought he was last year, where last year I had him ranked as a top 3 Dynasty running back at this time. But now going over to our next deal, we're going to be looking at the 110 and 203 for the 105. Very interesting trade here. I'm going to personally go with the 105. I mean, if we're going to be looking at how the tier drop ends at the 109 in Dynasty rookie drafts this year, I think it's very smart for you to be trying to trade out of the 111, the 112, the 110, where if we break down this rookie class, I think we can safely say that the top tier running backs, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, the top tier quarterbacks, you have Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson, whatever order you want, and the top tier wide receivers in whatever order you want, Jason, Addison, and Quentin Johnston. So in my mind, there's going to be that tier 9 players. So I really like moving from pick 10 and only paying a 2nd round pick to get up to 5, where you could possibly end up coming away with the CJ Stroud. Now going over to our next spot, we're looking at Kyler Murray versus Matthew Stafford, Jahan Dotson, and a second. Now, I really like the idea of buying low on Jahan Dotson. And if we were going to be looking at his price tag about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about going out there and trying to acquire him, yeah, Jahan Dotson did not cost much at all. But since then, I think people have realized pretty much over the past month that Jahan Dotson is someone that they were underrating, and we have seen his value rise, where at this point, if you're having to pay this price, I'm probably out. I'm probably just still going to go Kyler Murray here. Now with Kyler Murray, he can miss a large chunk this upcoming season. I mean, I had a bunch of people at the Underdog House, people way smarter than me, telling me that Kyler Murray was going to be out until the end of October. And of course, if that were to happen, then hell, You're not sitting pretty at the beginning portion of this season, but still, Kyler Murray does have very high ceiling. Possibly Cliff Kingsbury was a horrible NFL head coach, and getting someone else in here is going to change things dramatically for Kyler. I don't really know. I'm probably going to go Kyler Murray, though. Now, our next one is essentially Najee Harris versus Brandon Ayuk. Now, Najee Harris was very bad this past offseason, yes. But Najee Harris is still the guy you go with. Najee Harris is still on his rookie contract. He still has the first-round draft capital from 2021. He is someone that has the job security. With Ayuk, really don't know what the situation is going to look like this upcoming season for him. With Ayuk, while he has definitely flashed, at the end of the day, he's going to be a depth wide receiver. And I'm not some massive Najee Harris fan, but I kind of view Najee Harris as in you're investing into maybe David Montgomery back in 2020, where, yeah, it's not the best running back in the world, not a great offense. But at the end of the day, you're getting a running back that can do a little bit of everything, that's going to get a decent amount of volume. It's just going to put up raw fantasy points based off the raw number of touches he sees on a per game basis. So you got to go Najee Harris here. Now our next one, going to be the Arizona Cardinals stack, where you're looking at Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown versus the 104 and the 107. So I easily would rather have Kyler Murray over the 104, and I'd easily rather have the 107 over Hollywood. So I think it's an interesting trade. I think it's going to be a very fair deal dependent on if you're going to be a rebuilder or a contender. Because if we try to break this down, what happens if you end up saying, get CJ Stroud at the 104 and then at the 107, you're coming away with Jordan Addison? If we're putting those names attached to it, it's not the easiest thing in the world to pick a side here. I could see it making sense for both teams with either direction. I would say probably just keep the best player in the deal, probably just keep Kyler, but the injury is serious. Let me know what you're thinking about this trade. I think this is a very interesting one. Now, our next one's going to be Darnell Mooney, Travis Etienne versus Damian Harris in the 104. In my mind, Darnell Mooney, worthless. Damian Harris, worthless. I don't care. It's Travis Etienne or the 104. At this point, I'm going to prefer going ahead and taking Travis Etienne. Etienne a little bit older than you'd assume. I mean, Travis Etienne actually the same age as Jonathan Taylor, funny enough. But I mean, if you are looking at him, he's a running back that checks pretty much every single box from a prospect perspective. Running back that was phenomenal at points this past season. The one thing we didn't really get to see with Travis Etienne is the ability to go out there and command a decent target share. But honestly, he was so good at catching the ball at Clemson that I think that will be better this upcoming season for Travis Etienne. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars offense will continue to improve, especially with the addition of Calvin Ridley. So I would rather have Travis Etienne over whoever's the fourth running back or fourth player in this rookie class. Now, going over to a similar deal to what we had with the Kyler trade, it's going to be the 105-107 versus Daniel Jones and George Pickens. So maybe by the time you're watching this, Daniel Jones has already signed a massive extension. I don't care. We're going 105. We're going 107 here. And this coming from someone who's invested into Daniel Jones a ton over the past few years. Not because I thought he was going to be some great real-life NFL quarterback, but very similar to how we were investing into Josh Allen in 2018 rookie drafts, just because everybody in the Dynasty community thought they were the smartest people in the world, and they thought they were smarter than NFL talent evaluators at the quarterback position. And all we did was look at a quarterback that had NFL draft capital and rushing upside and said, okay, well, if you have draft capital, rushing upside, we'll probably buy into you at a discount when you're falling into the second round of rookie drafts. So I have Daniel Jones at a decent amount of leagues. I'm going 105, 107 here any day of the week. I mean, 105, like we said, I hate to keep on bringing up CJ Stroud, but I feel like you're not going to get Bryce Young 105. So 107, I would way rather have that over George Pickens. I mean, Pickens made some highlight grabs, but come on. I mean, the man committed absolutely no volume. Now, going over to our next deal, it's going to be a Kelce and Pickett trade, where it's going to be Travis Kelce, Kenny Pickett versus T. Higgins and the 112. I am personally going to prefer the T. Higgins side, but I personally view T. Higgins as an elite level wide receiver. And while, yeah, I mean, especially in a redraft, like especially in leagues on underdog over the past few years, I've been very quick to go all in on Travis Kelce, thinking that Travis Kelce gives you an elite advantage at a position where it's so difficult to project anybody else to score fantasy points. This may be the year where it's time to cash out on Travis Kelce. He will be 34 this season. I know he's coming off a Super Bowl win. I know he was phenomenal this past year, but I don't know. I think he should probably inherently lose a little bit of value going from age 33 to 34. I know people have been saying that over the past few years, and they've been wrong over the past few years, but I think now is actually kind of the time to join the Travis Kelce's getting old bandwagon, if that's what you want to call it. But now our last deal we're going to be looking at, a future first, the 110 for George Pickens. What are we doing here? You take the picks, okay? George Pickens is not worth this. I don't even want to talk about it. That's all I got for you. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe to Play Dynasty. If you want to get in a draft with us, find the link to Underdog in the comment section in the description. Sign up with promo code FLOCK, and they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200, and you'll get our 2023 Dynasty rankings. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.